Welcome back, and we're indeed so thankful that you're still watching WTV News Review. Now moving on to county news, and we want to start with disaster preparedness because El Nino is here with us. In fact, Diana, to be very specific, some of the areas in this country have started receiving very heavy rainfall, especially in the coastal regions. And now we have some deliberate measures or some deliberate efforts that are being taken by some of the county governments. And one is Narok. Narok is rushing to improve the drainage system to moderate the heavy rainfall that is reported.
Yes, I remember in yesterday's newspaper they said Narok has set 200 million shillings in preparing for the El Nino rains, and it's a good thing because you remember some months ago there were floods in the area and many people died. We had a few number of people dying because of the floods. A lot of things and property was destroyed. And it's good to see that they are actually preparing. I don't know if it's too late though, because the rains will be falling anytime from now.
Yeah, anytime from now. In fact, as I was saying, El Nino rain started in some of the parts of the country yesterday, and a multi-agency team by the national government, however, said most of the parts of the country reported sporadic rainfall. So I think they still have a room, but as it stands now, time out.
Yeah, time out.
So I think they are just living by the grace of God that rains are not there.
Yeah, and I really hope other counties as well have done the same, especially in Mombasa. I don't know if you've been in Mombasa town, and when it just rains, just the normal rain, it floods. It actually floods in town, and you're walking and it's so uncomfortable. And I really hope the drainage systems in Nairobi, in most counties, have really been, put in a way that there will be no flooding.
Yeah, of course we have some measures being taken, especially in Nairobi. Nairobi is also one city that gets messy, especially when it rains. Some of the most affected areas that we've seen in the past include South C, South B. But right now, the county government is trying, spanning the midnight oil to get the job done in terms of trying to get some tunnels, just trying to make sure that the drainage is in place. So I think if all the counties do that, and also we look at something else about water harvesting, so that we do not have, especially in some of the places in this country that receive very low rainfall, I think something needs to be done so that we do not end up having a lot of water because of El Nino rains, and then at the end of the day, we still struggle with water after that.
Yeah.
So I think there should also be dams and all that.
Like to challenge, the county governments as well. Let's not be waiting for last minute when things are, just about to blow out. That's when we start putting things into place. These things we should have done a long time ago, especially now in Nairobi. El Nino can hit hard, and trees fall on the roads. Those things should be already taken care of. You'll find a tree has fallen on some car and people end up dying. But my point is, last minute should just not be.
Yeah, I think the culture of doing things at the last minute is something that we have lived with, and it's the high time we let it go because. Even so, not even about the rains. When you talk of submitting tax returns, people just wait until the last minute.
The last minute.
When it's, you remember that time when there was the Kidero grass? Last minute, that's the time when they realize, oh my, we need to have our highway in place. But of course the governor was there saying that has nothing to do with Obama. It's part of the strategic plan for beautification of the city. But we appreciate at least now the Kidero grass is green.
It's green, hallelujah.
So that's about it in terms of disaster preparedness. And of course, we see the same efforts there in Mombasa. Efforts are on to avert more disasters as woman dies after heavy rains. Police say the victim was in a quarry when it caved in on her on Tuesday night. So we've just had, this casualty. I mean, we've just started seeing numbers trickling in terms of deaths. But I think something else, apart from the drainage system that we are talking about, the most important thing is to know where you should be at the right time. Otherwise, if you are found in maybe in a cave in a quarry and with this kind of weather, and then it caves in, that's the end.
And you know, there are those areas where they were being warned that you know, the areas are very low, and when it rains they'll be covered, you know, like there'll be, what do you call it,
the landslide.
Yes, exactly. And they were being warned to leave and to move, but you'll find some of them being very reluctant in doing so, and it's just for their safety. They should take note.
That has been a Narok County, Mombasa County, trying to get some systems in place to avert the damage that may be caused by the El Nino rains and all that. And the same trend, Diana, in Uasin Gishu, but now this time I think we are seeing a preventive versus curative measure, because this Mombasa efforts, Narok, that's more of preventive, getting the drainage system in place, trying to make sure that everything runs. Now we have a curative measure here from Uasin Gishu, because Cereals Board is set to buy maize to avert losses by El Nino. So the main reason why I'm looking at this as curative measure is they have seen maybe El Nino has damaged or has caused some losses. So they are now they are working on assumption that El Nino will mess us up. Then so we need to buy these cereals. How do you take of this? How do you compare the two, the curative versus the preventive measure?
Well, I think it's a good measure, especially with such a county. At least we're seeing efforts being done, and it's good to see at least some of the counties can also learn from this one. Yes.
And you see, for me, I look at it like, you know what they say? You hope for the best, but you prepare for the worst. And that's why I think Uasin Gishu County National Cereals and Produce Board yesterday outlined measures to safeguard grain farmers from losses ahead of the anticipated El Nino. So the interventions include opening buying centers to receive produce, and I think that's a good move.
It's a good move, for sure.
Moving on to matters business.
Well, now borrowers bear brunt of costly intervention in rescuing the shilling. The details here is that the CBK intervention has seen yields on treasury bills surge to highest levels in more than 3 years. And Kenya is finding that the price for, defending its currency is higher borrowing costs for the government, and yields on treasury bills have surged to their highest levels in more than 3.5 years as the central bank attempts to entice foreigners attracting dollars and investors into buying securities into the economy and taking shillings out of the system, which is a good thing. I think the fact that I like what this guy is doing. We're using a lot, but he's trying to make things work for the shilling, because now, as you have seen, we're almost at 110. But what he's doing is that he's willing to stomach high rates. It's all about the shilling. They feel they have room to do this without negatively affecting inflation. Yes.
Quite a way of trying to rescue the sliding shilling, because I remember even about 2 weeks ago, if I'm not wrong, he also came up very strongly trying to explain why the shilling has also been doing so poorly. And one of the things that he said is we have a lot of rogue banks and forex bureaus.
Yes.
And he said market discipline is key in terms of trying to stabilize the shilling. Market discipline simply means if you do not have a lot of information concerning why the shilling is sliding, just don't go on and give wrong information, because giving wrong information simply means that it will also affect the trade and all that. So at the end of the day, we end up weakening our shilling against the dollar. So that matters business, and now almost coming up to the end of this news review, but not without mentioning matter security a bit. Now, Diana, there is a case, and this is involving the Kenya and Somalia border. So the latest is that Kenya has formally rejected Somalia's border disputes case between the International Court of Justice. And Attorney General Githu Muigai said that the preliminary objections to the court that Mogadishu's bid to adjust the coastal boundaries through the court was invalid. This is, of course, we've been trying to kind of discuss this thing about Somali versus Kenya border conflict. And you remember even at one point there was the suggestion that there should be a wall.
Yes, yes.
And it's all about the safety of this country.
Yes.
And what my concern is, I think it's the high time that, Somalia and Kenya, we agree on a few things.
Yeah, I think something should be done. We should agree.
We should agree on some things.
Yeah. To avoid such things. And one thing, talking about agreement, I don't know how Somalia feels, the Somali government, feels about the whole terrorism issue affecting Kenya. And we are neighbors. I don't know how they feel about that and what they are doing about it.
You see, the latest that we have from Somalia, in fact, is concerning the elections, because they were supposed to use the secret ballot in 2016 when elections come. But the UN, that is the United Nations, has warned against that. In fact, they say Somalia itself, it's not safe to conduct those kinds of elections.
Yeah.
So as far as the United Nations is concerned, as far as Kenya is concerned,
Yes.
Somalia is still not safe.
It's not.
And that's why even we have the Kenya Defense Forces in Somalia,
Yeah,
just trying to bring peace. And now finally to the ever-changing world of sports. We call it the ever-changing because yesterday Kenya was playing Mauritius in the World Cup, the World Cup qualifier meant to take place in 2018 in Russia. And this time at least we have something to smile about, because for a very long time Harambee Stars have always been deemed, but not this time. Harambee Stars now won the game that was being played away in Mauritius, and Kenya overpowered Mauritius in a 7-goal showdown. Dana.
Is it 7 or 5?
It's a 7-goal showdown in this sense.
Oh, okay.
The total number of goals were 7, and this meant that Harambee Stars 5 and Mauritius 2.
Wow, it's a good thing for Kenya. Oh.
I think it's a good thing for Kenya. At least for one time we can place our money on the Kenyan team, because the last time, even the last game the national team was playing against Zambia, it was very funny to see them in Nyayo Stadium. And something else that also came up is, at least in football, that's one of the avenues where you can be patriotic. You support your country. Yes. When it comes to the local leagues, you support the team that comes from your place. And that time it was Kenya playing Zambia. Yes, people were supporting Kenya in Nyayo Stadium, but most of them in SportsPesa, they had placed their bets with Zambia.
Oh my goodness.
So it was quite interesting. But now we see if the team proceeds like this, then we may have something to smell about. But there's still a long way to go.
There's a long
because
way to go.
This was the first leg, Kenya versus Mauritius, 5-2 in favor of Kenya. This team is coming to Kenya on Sunday for a return leg, so you have to see how that unfolds. But now that's more of a formality, because Kenya having 5 goals in away matches, that means unless now Mauritius beats Kenya by 7 goals or something, so it's more like a formality. Kenya has beaten Mauritius with aggregate, but in football everything is possible. So the team that from there will win by aggregate, it will book a date with Cape Verde in round 2 of the preliminaries. Now Cape Verde, I think that's where the rubber will meet the road, because Cape Verde is a stronger team. It's not like Mauritius. It has been in the African Cup of Nations finals for quite a number of times. We've never been there. I don't know, but anyway, statistics and sometimes history don't lie. We come up. This is the end of our news review, but you can always tell us what you think of some of the stories that we've discussed this afternoon. Our Twitter handle is WTVKE. Facebook is WTV Kenya. Use the hashtag #NewsReview so that we are in a position to check your conversation online. And see you next time. Have a good afternoon.